Welcome back to News Center. Of course, the discussion today is on the state of security in the country. The focus is on the Dusit D2 attack. It is now 5 years since that terrorist attack happened. But just moving away from what happened in Dusit, I want us to take a look at the current security situation in the country and focus on what we've seen happening in the last few weeks. Just coming back to you, Jules and Enoch. I mean, we've seen two cases of femicide, if we may call it. Two ladies have been killed at Airbnbs, different Airbnbs, and that has raised a lot of questions in terms of security in the country. Those apartments where the Airbnbs usually are placed, there are security guards, for instance, who are private a lot of the times. Is it that the security is not being maintained in the right way? Was it not, is there any step that should have been done to maintain that?
Yeah, we did, without going in every single detail of the cases, but I think there are indeed we have to make a distinction between security and security. And as I said, not referring to the case itself, but first of all, it's important, how reputable is the company that is taking care of the security. Mm-hmm. Quite often you see in apartments, complexes, not really, do they have a license? Do they have the proper training, etc.? Mm-hmm. So that's one big challenge. Security companies, there is really a difference between one and the other. Then the other point is we refer to technology. Which technology is used there? Because a lot of people think if there is a guard at the gate and you have a big complex, now I'm secure and safe. Mm-hmm. And I think that is wrong to think like that. Even if there is a guard at the gate, what is happening on the back end? Is the place in general still safe? And are each individual apartment safe? Because there is just one guard at the gate. Mm-hmm. It's not enough. So I think that is an important element. So deal with reputable companies. Mm-hmm. I think also you're referring to Airbnb. I think that's something that should be addressed by the organization. Is it safe? Is it secure? And if it is secured, how is it secured and by whom? I think that will help to make your own assessment. Of course, if you're in country and you know the places, you can make maybe your own judgment. But if you come from abroad and you book something from a nice picture and a nice photos, how do you know?
Right.
How do you know it's safe, secure? So I think that is something that we should look at. And then last but not least, as I mentioned, systems, technology. Yeah. Our new system that we apply, use your smartphone. Your smartphone can have a panic button. Mm-hmm. So if something happens during your stay,
you can press the
button. Mm-hmm. And something will, you have to be connected again with some security company. Mm-hmm. But if you are connected, then at least, you have an extra layer of security organized. Mm-hmm. And then you can use cameras again. So there is much more in technology, but I think we should be much more alert of, don't assume there is a guard at the gate, now it's safe. Really make a serious assessment, and that's where training comes in, and also the government with PSRA looking more and more into the security itself. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, you may have looked at the issue of minimum wage and paying taxes. There are many companies out that are not paying the minimum wage. They're not paying taxes. How can you provide security if you are not compliant with the basics in itself? Mm-hmm. It's impossible.
Right. A lot of core issues there. Yeah. Enoch, you want to add to that?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say send my condolences to the families that lost their beloved ones through this thing of Airbnb.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
It's a business venture that has killed hotels, because people prefer going to Airbnb than going to hotels, and that requires the government to put down their foot. And I'm talking about Tourism Regulatory Authority, I'm talking about the Minister of Wildlife. They just make sure that at the end of the day, if you want to get into this business of NB, you would write licenses and the way hotels operate, because for you to operate, to run a hotel, there are licenses you are supposed to get so that you are able to allow to operate. Then secondly, I think these guys, because there are a lot of opportunities that have come up because of NB. You go to South Coast, you go to North Coast, you come to Nairobi. I think there are so many guys who have come in who are using these things as dens for criminality. And the only way the government can be able to come in, they give very clear instructions. For example, most of those NBs, they just have what you call caretakers. Somebody, the owner is paid the money online, and you just come. The caretaker gives you the key. You get into the route, and that's what you are saying. There's need for whoever is concerned in the government to make sure that they issue clear instructions. Guards are very, very, very not involved in ANB. Guards only open the gate and close the gate. But when it comes to actual management of an ANB facility, in most cases, they are just caretakers who have not even training on hospitality. Somebody just takes a cousin, can you take care of this thing? When somebody comes, I'll call you, you open and that's why these criminals have found a very good avenue, a very good opportunity, where they know once I'm able to pay 5 days, I make that place my home. I'm able to do my own things, sell my drugs, do what I can be able to do. At the end of the day, nobody will come and check me. So if at all we want to make sure that these guys draw the line, I think the ministry that is concerned should actually follow up these guys, push them to the corner to be able to meet the minimum requirements, so that at the end of the day, we stop this nonsense.
So this comes back to the Airbnb owners,
yes,
right? To just make sure that security is maintained.
Yes. And for example, like the latest one where you could not find details of who has come in. That's what I'm telling you, most of these guys are just caretakers, where the owner receives money and he just told, get in, go to room 5, go to room 6. And the guy on the ground, that guy on the ground does not even have details of who has come in, what time has come in. Like what happens, you cannot check in a hotel, whether 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. You cannot check in a hotel without them taking the photocopy of your ID. Never. Photocopy of your passport, never. And you fill the form. That form is mandatory. It's a mandatory requirement by the Ministry of Tourism that you must fill the form. They have your details, full details, because anything can happen to you. It's not a question of you can get sick while in the hotel. They want to know who they inform. So the type of information is the one that needs to be developed, and these guys are properly told very clearly. For you to be able to run an A and B facility, these are the minimum requirements. And then from there now, who will enforce? Because these things are now located in like the one we had was in South B. Now this one we are talking about in Zimmerman, Roysambu. So these things are all over in town here. But the question is now, who will enforce? Then now, for example, I'm happy the Kisumu County gave it a very clear guideline on how this will be done. So I'm appealing to the governor. The governor has a tourism docket. Let this guy actually, they are the right guys in Nairobi to be able to tell these guys, stop this nonsense. If you want to run this thing, can you put this, the following things in place? Can you have a reputable security company? And these are the rules of the game, so that should anything happen at A and B, we're able to find out who was in, how long was he in, and definitely you'll find these criminals running away and maybe going to hire house or something like that. But as things stand right now, we are in a very awkward situation where we're going to lose so many Kenyans through this animal called ANB. Unless counties take action.
Yeah, I would like to add something, because the new rules with PSRA, actually they describe that not only if you employ and provide security services and you're not licensed, then that's a criminal offense. But it's also the person who is engaging with somebody who is not licensed and doesn't have the proper, that's also an offense. And I think, and those are quite serious, you know, quite heavy penalties on it, and even you can be put in jail for it. And I think you're right. First of all, we have to create that awareness, because if I'm aware that engaging with, indeed with a friend or with family and not taking security serious is a criminal offense, then I might think twice. again to do this. So that's one thing, and I fully agree with you, is the enforcement. Because now, if we know this, then obviously, unfortunately, that's with security, one of the big challenges. Some serious things have to happen before we start to move and start to act and react. So, but I think the rules are there, but we now have to mobilize all the people to get it done. But first of all, please be aware. So if you are going to an Airbnb situation, ask for it. Do you have security?
Right.
If it's licensed or not. Is this regular and properly licensed security or not? And I think that will help a lot, because that will automatically force, well, the good guys from the bad guys.
Right. Away from that particular story, just now talking about awareness, because you've mentioned awareness, and earlier on we're talking about terrorism and training when it comes to organizations. But when it comes to the ordinary Kenyan who does not work in any organization, what's the best way of them receiving that training or receiving that understanding when it comes to matters, terrorism and security in the country? Maybe we can start with you, then we'll come back to Jules.
Terrorism awareness is a training that takes like 2 hours. 2 hours, I've done for so many organizations. Deloitte, I've done for so many organizations. And basically what we take a normal person through, first of all, understanding terrorism. How does it concern you as a member of the public? Number 2, what techniques do these guys use? Number 3, what are the common techniques that can be able to apply in a normal scenario in a place like KTN? Then number 3, you now take them through what should they be able to do to avoid being victims of terror. And then finally, you take them through now the active shooter scenario, where you're able to tell them now the 3 things: you run, you hide, you fight. You take them through that. You tell them now, suppose you are let's say in one of the shopping malls, like what happened at Dusit, what happened at Westgate, and then you are do you leave your children? What do you do? Do you sleep? You take them through the whole scenario. The first place you to hide, where you are, from where you are, find a place where you can be able to hide and make yourself safe. Then secondly, if you can be able to run to a safe area, because most Kenyans, I've told you the problem with most Kenyans is when there is a shooting, they want to run towards where there's shooting. And the problem is we've lost so many Kenyans because of that. So we always teach staff that you must run against where the shooting is coming from. Then worst case scenario, which one, this one requires the grace of Jesus or the grace of God, is you to fight. And now fighting means you use anything that is available. You can use an extinguisher, you can use even hot water, tea. You pour somebody in the face, but depending on how difficult you are, because there are people, when such things happen, they just die naturally. You know, because of cowardness, somebody just dies, it's a shock. Like that. So we normally take them to that training. They are able to understand that. And I can tell you for free, one of the things that gave Dusit a very big success was, number 1, staff had been taken through the counterterrorism emergency preparedness. They knew what's supposed to happen. So when the first group came in, you remember the group that was asking on phone, where are you guys? Where are you guys? And then the guy blew himself. That is the time, and these are the guys who were at the barrier near the banks. They were coming in. The first group was already in. Right. So when now the first group blew up, then of course now we had an emergency bell going on, and now staff were able to run towards that tunnel towards Westlands. So by the time these guys, the main group now, the killer group arrived in the Dusit hotel, I think they were not able to find majority of staff had evacuated. Those ones who had remained within the building were able to hide, and most of them were safe. So when you're hiding, it means you lock the building, where the office where you are. You make it difficult for this guy to come in where you are. And by the time these guys were doing this, police had already been informed. We were able to pass on the way to IG, mobilize the SWAT team. The SWAT team came in, and when they came in, they were able to neutralize these guys within 2-3 hours. And I think we were able to say, the IG was able to say we are safe, and these guys have now been neutralized. So the question of us training staff is staff getting to know what to do in case there's a problem, but at the end of the day, let them get their training, let them understand what they can do within the organizations and what they can do outside the organizations. And the training normally takes 2 hours. I normally do the training myself with my company. So once we do the training, we're able to take them through the whole process. And then lastly, we normally work with the National Counterterrorism Center, where we show staff, this is how a grenade looks like. This is not a tomato. This is not an orange. This is how a grenade looks like. What happens is that if this pin is removed, that means, my friend, you can die anytime. So you are supposed to lie down, yeah? Then this thing will blow. So we take them through the whole thing. Some of them have been shown live ammunitions. This is how a gun looks like. So that they're able to understand this thing live. And it helps in terms of fighting terrorism. Because like in Uganda, we used to work with the media. And the media used to actually show a grenade, on live, on TV. This is how a grenade works, and you guys, when you see it, please run 3 steps backward, lie down, then once it goes off, you are safe. So these are things that we must train staff on.
Right, Jules, just coming back to you. I mean, you're also based in Uganda and Tanzania now from like that international perspective. How different is it in Kenya compared to those countries, and also in terms of just creating awareness?
Yeah, I think we can learn from each other. You gave already an example, because I think what is very important is indeed use the media, for instance, because obviously we will provide training to our clients and to quite often also to the communities in general. But there's much more we can do, and I think the media could play an important role by, having programs like this, discuss about it, talk about it. Government, by putting commercials, putting advertisements in place, because it helps. If you create that awareness, if you have not thought about all the tips that were given, how would you know? But so this is something that we need to do together. It's the community, organize in the communities these type of workshops. People will be happy to attend, in particular if it's offered, in a more casual way. It's not forced on you, but just like, hey, are you aware that if we do this, if we do that, that it will save? The general tip is indeed, if you're not the expert, don't play the hero. Don't try to be a hero here. It's not going to work. But yeah, sometimes you are forced into situations. If you have never trained it, if you have never dealt with it, one way or another, please, don't try to be that hero, because that's where things go wrong. Better, to make yourself small or invisible, whatever. And if you can, always run away. Don't run to it.
You run away from it.
You run away. Right. So yes, each of the countries has different situations, but indeed, learn from it. Learn from what's happening actually globally, because terrorism it's a global problem. It's not a Kenyan problem. It's not a Ugandan, Tanzanian problem. It's a global problem. And we see, unfortunately, given the setting in the world, it's getting worse instead of better. At least the attempts, but it's up to the public and the governments, to deal with it and tackle with it.
Right, as we wrap up, we have 2 minutes to go, and just maybe your final thoughts on the state of security in the country.
As I said from the beginning, I think I'm glad to say that the government has done a good job in terms of wholly looking at the terrorism problem, and the setting up of the anti-terrorism police unit, setting up of the National Counterterrorism Center, making sure that we've very good technical systems, making sure that our police officers are properly trained on countering terrorism, and making sure that we have a very specialized unit that can deal head-on with the counterterrorism issues and then countering counterterrorism. I think we need to support the government on that. And then we as security companies, I think we have a role to play. We need to just make sure that our guards are properly trained on how to not this issue of just getting somewhere and then a guard comes with a metal detector, it makes noise, it tells you get in, but technically he has not been able to to tell you maybe you have a weapon or something like that. I think we just need to make sure the guards are properly trained, that when this thing makes noise, just try to find out what this guy is having, and then use again diplomatic language. Ladies, can I check your bag? Once that the ladies are not disappointed. And then finally, I think these things are getting more complicated. What do I mean? Terrorism is becoming more complicated. Call it in West Africa, call it in Middle East, call it. You can see Israel as one of the best nations that has come face to face with terrorism, but they were attacked the other day.
Right,
so
right.
The issue is the problem is global, very complicated. So it's a question of every country trying to put in place mechanism that can be able to keep it safe as we move along.
Right. Yeah. Jules, 30 seconds, because we're out of time.
Yeah, I would say please be alert, take security serious, raise the right questions, communicate, and really deal with a proper licensed company that knows what it's all about, and don't try to be cheap on security.
Right.
Cheap is expensive, and in security, actually, it creates casualties.
Right. Thank you so much, both. It has been a very, very interesting conversation on the state of security in the country. That is, on my immediate left is Jules Delehay. He's the CEO of SGA Security. And we've also been joined by Enoch Makalia. He's a counterterrorism security expert. Thank you both for your time. Right, that's a wrap for News Center. Thank you for watching. My name is Fatihia Mohammed Noor. Yanayo Jiri is up next.